Hi guys, today I wanted to give you my first impressions using the Sony FX30 and provide you with a quick overview of my camera settings. When this camera was released, I had it on pre-order, so I received it 2 or 3 days after it was released, and I've been using it for a while, so I've put it through its paces already, and I will say that I've been absolutely loving this new FX30. And I find the layout of the buttons and the new Sony menu is just a real pleasure to use. And you pair that with the full touch capable high-res screen, and it just makes the whole camera system a lot more user friendly and so much easier to navigate and choose your options and just get through the menu system. So far, I found the video quality to be excellent. And you can really see the difference going from the 8-bit camera that I was using before to 10-bit, and it maybe has something to do with the new sensor and just the camera itself, but the video quality, you could really see the difference. And really, I feel that this FX30 can do it all, whether you're in HD or 4K. You can switch to any frame rate that you want, and that's really nice. Before I felt I was really limited because if I wanted to do 60 frames or anything like that, I had to drop down to HD, and I couldn't always work in 4K if that's what I wanted to do. So that's somewhat liberating. It's really nice to be able to just switch frame rates because I am doing that quite often. And the type of video that I do take, usually I'm shooting in 60 frames. So I'm really enjoying that. Overall, it's just a really nice camera, and I feel after using it for a while, it's just really good value, I think. Something else I'd like to mention about this camera is how light and small it is. If you can run a stripped down version like this, being on a gimbal like the Weebill S, it's the smallest package ever, extremely light and extremely powerful as well. So I'd like to go over some of the settings that I've employed setting this camera up. I know there's a lot in the menu system, so when I set up a camera, I usually like it the way that I want. I just spend the time, set it up right, and then I don't really have to jump into menus too often. The camera is completely set up. I set up my profiles as well. So I'm just gonna show you a few of the settings that I've changed in the camera, and hopefully if you watch what I've changed, it might inspire you to try some of these settings as well. And for those of you who are just receiving this camera, or you're just still in the process of setting it up, here's my settings. Let's dive into it. To start things off, just jumping into my menu here, just make sure that you have a photo mode selected, and then we're going to go in and we are going to change the what we're recording when we're taking photos. Go to image quality, and here I'm going to select RAW and JPEG. So when you're recording or taking photos, you're going to be getting a RAW image and a JPEG as well. So then we're going to switch to video. Next. There we go. Just going to switch to video, and we're going to jump back into the menu. And one of the first things that we're going to go to is shooting, image quality again, and then we're going to go to lens compensation, and change these all to auto. So the in camera, it's going to try to correct for chromatic aberration and distortion in the lens. I don't know why this isn't all turned on when you set up the camera. And then number 2, we're going to go right back into shooting, and then we're going to go to file. And then we're going to go to file settings, and you want to go down to file name format, change this to title. And then this is going to allow you to change the title name. So when an image or a file gets saved to your your card, it's going to allow you to put a prefix. I'm putting in FX30. So this just allows you to differentiate your different video files from other cameras. I have a couple cameras, so when I have them in my Finder, I can identify which ones actually came from the FX30. So number 3, we're going to go to shooting, and then we're going to go to audio recording. And from audio recording, we're going to go to wind noise reduction. I have this set to off. When you get this camera out of the box, it is set to auto, I believe, or it's set to on. I try to just remove all kinds of filters from my audio. And there's no need for it, I don't believe. Shooting, and then shooting display is the next one. Where's that one? Right there we go. Shooting display. And then we're going to remove emphasize record display. I set mine to off. This comes default on. So it just puts a little red box around your screen when you are recording. But I don't really get the point of this because you have tally lights all over the camera, and this red box just clutters up the screen, so I just remove it. So the next one we're going to go into is back in shooting, and then we're going to go to zoom, and then zoom range. It's set to optical zoom only when you get the camera out of the box, but I change it to clear image zoom, and this allows us to use the little rocker on the front to just do a digital zoom, and then it works with all of my lenses. Otherwise, you can only do it with a power zoom lens, which I don't have, and I don't imagine most people are going to be using power zooms with this camera. They're probably going to have primes, so this is just fantastic. It just allows you to zoom in a little bit, especially if you have a prime. It just gives you a little bit more reach. So that's fantastic. And the next one we're going to go into is focus. And then we're going to go into face eye autofocus. There we go. And then from face eye autofocus, we're going to go iframe display. Right here. And by default, this is off. I switch it to on. So what this does is it just puts that little box around someone's face or eye when you're recording. And this allows you to know that you are locked onto their face or their eye and what eye you're locked onto. So I would suggest that you turn this on. And then the next one we're going to go into is peaking display. There we go. And I just find that the color red is easier to see. I believe it comes default to white, so I changed it to red. So the next one we're going to go into is from the setup menu is Operation Customize, and then we're going to go into different set for stills and movies. So we go in here and just select all of these. So when you're not in a like a custom preset and you're just in regular movie mode and you're switching back to photos, this ensures that you don't carry over these settings between photos and video. So that's fantastic. You just have to select all these. It comes by default unselected. And the next one we're going to go into is setup again, Operation Customize, and then we're going to go into record with shutter. Where's that? Record with shutter. There we go. By default, this is off. You want to turn this on. So what this does, it allows you to press the shutter button up front and record with it. I just find it's very convenient. It's just harder to hit this record button up here or the one in the front. So why not turn that on and just use it? And then we're also going to go into setup monitor. And then from monitor, we're going to go to display quality. And we're going to turn this to high. It comes stock in standard. I don't know why it's not in high. Of course, you want the best resolution possible. There we go. And then you also want to go into monitor brightness. And by default, it comes to, I think, manual, but I always just have it set to sunny weather, so it's nice and bright all the time. It may take a, it might take a bite out of your battery, but I feel that it is good to have that turned on so you can always see your screen, especially when you go outside. One of the last ones we want to do is go to external output and then go to HDMI info display. And then just make sure this is off. What this is going to do is going to allow you to put a nice full-size image to an external display without all the clutter of the all the icons and all your settings. It'll just keep all these settings on the camera display. And then if you don't have this turned off, what's going to happen is it's going to turn off the camera display and only output to the monitor with all the clutter. So this is just a much better way of doing it, and something that you'll likely want to turn off. And that's pretty much it. That's it for settings, but there are some keys that I've adjusted. So if you go into setup, dial, customize, and then you can customize keys and dials for video. You can just go in here on the back. I set the back dial for aperture and the front for ISO. Normally by default it comes swapped, but I just find that I'm adjusting my aperture quite often. So I just set that to my thumb dial because it's easier to use. Couple other buttons I've set. I believe button number 3, which is right in the middle, that is not set by default. I set it to my audio record level because anytime you're attaching a microphone or some kind of sound device to your camera, you usually need to set the level, so it just gives you quick access to that. Also, number 2 key. So number 2 key, I set that to my grid line display. Sometimes I just want grid lines on my screen when I'm just trying to frame a subject or a person. I just want those grid lines on there, and I don't want to be fiddling around in my camera. I just want to be able to press a button, see them, and then if I want to take away the clutter from my screen, I can just press it again and it disappears. So those are a few keys that I have changed, and you might find some value in that. One of the last things I wanted to talk to you about, which makes the operation of the camera so much easier, is setting up your profiles. So in this camera, you have, of course, all your camera presets for like aperture priority and manual, and then you just have your regular video movie mode where you can make your adjustments. And so I've made most of my adjustments just from this this menu, just the regular movie mode. But the thing is, you don't want to keep changing your settings continually. So what I do is once I have made all these different setting changes, I want to also set different frame rates and codecs and that sort of thing. So take, for example, this one right now, number 1 setting. I have this to my regular 24p 4K, and then I just, I can set my shutter 1/50, and it's set to 4K 24. So if I'm going to just be recording just a regular scene in 4K, all I do is just go to number 1. It's all set up for me with all those options that we just talked about. And then number 2, I have set to 4K 60. So if I'm going to be doing some type of slow motion, I just want to be able to slow it down in post, then I can just quickly jump to the 4K 60, and the shutter speed is 1/125. And so if I'm somewhere and I'm doing a bunch of filming, I'm filming in 4K, and just for maybe a couple scenes, I want to record in a higher frame rate. I'm not having to jump around and change my shutter speed and then change other settings in my camera. I can just quickly just jump to number 2, and everything is set up the way I want. And I do some kind of slower motion. So I set just a regular HD in 60p with similar settings. So that just makes it much easier. So I have regular 4K, I have 60 frames a second in 4K, and then I also have just regular HD in 60 frames. And then what I do is, I normally just have regular video mode set to 4K 120p. So I have pretty much all the different frame rates and modes at the tip of my finger without having to go in and change all these camera settings. And then it could just be frustrating when you're actually filming and people are around and you're fiddling with your camera. That's the one thing that can annoy a lot of people, is if you're wasting time always changing settings on your camera. So this is something I would suggest, is just setting up your profiles, and then it's just super easy. You don't have to always be adjusting on the fly when you're filming. So that just makes it a lot easier. And then another thing that you can do, which just makes adjusting your camera a lot easier, is setting up your quick menu. So you have my menus. So what I do is I just set just some of the settings that I access the most in my my camera. So you can just pre-save them here. So you just go down and just go add an item, and then you can just go in and add them to menu 1, menu 2, menu 3, and you can even have a menu for video, one for photos. But I shoot mostly video, so most of this is just video related. So although I may have buttons for these, I also just have some of these quick menus, so I can just go in and quickly change some of these settings that I access the most. So there we go. And then, by the way, so when you're setting up your presets, this is the menu that you will look out for, camera set memory, and then you can just go in and then choose one of these, profile 1, profile 2, or profile 3. So that's how you set that up. And yeah, so that's basically it. If you set up all of these presets and you change these settings, and then you just save them into those presets, then you shouldn't have a need to jump deep into your menu items that often when you're out shooting. One of the very last things I want to show you is just the quick access menu. All the Sony cameras with the new menu system have this. All you do is that you swipe up and you can just make quick changes, and it just makes it a lot easier to access your quick menu file. And you can also just access it by going in here, and then you can just see, there we go. So we have your quick menu here, and then there's page 2, and most of the important camera settings are in here already. So that just makes it really, really easy to access all your settings here. Quick menus, this is also where you can go in and change your file format. I have been using the XAVC HS, and I find that this one provides good quality video, and the file sizes aren't too large. So for me, this is the best. So you might want to try that out as well. That's pretty much it. One other thing I can show you is just if you are going to be shooting in log, there you go. You can just go into log and then go into your log settings and change it to whatever you want to use. Say I normally use a flexible ISO, and there you go. So once again, if you already have this FX30, hopefully you enjoyed my rundown of my settings. And if you're thinking about buying this camera, it's just, it's a really nice camera, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.